Welcome back to the program.
Indeed, a warm welcome to you, and this is the Daily Brief.
Moses Wainaina, the proprietor of Precious Talents Academy in Dagoretti, where a building collapsed on Monday, killing 8 pupils, is expected in court this morning. A report by the Ministry of Education on the tragedy found the school had exceeded the number of pupils allowed. The institution has since been closed and its license revoked.
And a 3-judge bench is today expected to deliver a ruling on the legality of the new currency notes already in circulation. Activist Okea Omtata accuses the central bank of contravening the constitution by retaining the portrait of Kenya's first president on the new generation notes. Omtata further faults the CBK for directing that all the old 1,000-shilling notes be withdrawn by October 1st, and Justices Anthony Mrima, Kimondo Kanyi and Arsanath Ongeri will deliver that ruling.
Now, the Special Funds Committee is currently examining audit reports on financial statements for the Agricultural Settlement Fund trustees. The committee will therefore conduct 2 field visits in Trans Nzoia and Nakuru to verify the size of land bought for IDPs under the program and ascertain actual beneficiaries. The team is expected to visit Lomolo and Kisima farms in Nakuru.
Now, Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya will today inspect ongoing construction of the Eldoret Town bypass. The County Commissioner will later tour Kipkaren Water Project alongside the County Commissioner Uasin Gishu.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i will today preside over the joint launch of strategic plans for the National Police Service and the National Police Service Commission. Also expected at the event is Police Inspector General, that is Hilary Mutiambai, and National Police Service Chair National Police Service Commission Chair, that is Eliud Kenothia. The event will take place at the Kenya School of Government in Kabete.
And today the world marks World Tourism Day as set aside by the United Nations World Tourism Organization since 1980. The purpose of this day is to raise awareness on the role of tourism within the international community and to demonstrate how it affects social, cultural, political and economic values worldwide. The theme this year is Tourism and Jobs, a Better Future for All, with India playing host.
No,
Moving on,
can take this.
The government has announced a raft of new austerity measures
aimed at enforcing fiscal discipline in the public service. And we saw yesterday Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani make these announcements, where the new measures, which take effect immediately, are contained in a circular by the National Treasury to Cabinet Secretaries and all accounting officers.
Now, foreign travel for government officials and use of government transport will be largely affected as Treasury seeks to cut more than 700 billion shillings in fiscal deficit.
Right, and of course we've seen that story develop for the better part of yesterday all the way into this morning. And you know, Shiksha, as I highlighted to you earlier, it's not the first time the government is doing this, because we've seen the president pronounce himself on this matter almost a year ago. It appears not much was able to kick off. How far will these measures announced by Ukur Yatani go? Well, only time will tell.
And for now, it's time for the local updates, where a KDF officer and 3 AP officers have been arrested over the recent robbery of 72 million shillings while being loaded into an ATM by G4S officials.
The incident occurred earlier this month at a bank ATM in Nairobi West, when officers escorting the cash brandished guns and took off with the money.
Police investigations show it was a well-planned robbery that involved officials of the G4S and police officers who have since been arrested and charged.
The latest to be arrested are a KDF officer from Kahawa Barracks and 3 AP officers, including a married couple.
DCI says the suspects have identified a 5th person who is being sought after, escaping with an unknown amount of money.
Soon after the robbery, 3 administration police officers were arrested in Kisii and Homa Bay and Machakos, and some of the money recovered. They have since been charged.
All right, and for now, moving on, where Somalia President Mohamed Farmajo on Thursday used his inaugural address to the United Nations to reject Kenya's call for talks on the maritime boundary dispute.
President Uhuru Kenyatta had earlier said he was open to anything, though emphasizing on dialogue as the best option to find a solution.
Farmajo said the matter was in court and that the International Court of Justice, ICJ, should be the ultimate arbiter because talks between the two countries have collapsed completely.
Somalia, he said, will comply with the court's final judgment and accept the outcome of the boundary that is delimited by the court.
The firm talking president added that as a matter of international law, the court's judgment will be binding on Kenya as well.
Now to the international front, where the illuminations at the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France, was switched off 2 hours earlier than usual on Thursday evening in honor of former President Jacques Chirac, who was once a Paris mayor.
Now, Chirac, who championed the European Union, died yesterday, aged 86.
His son-in-law said the ex-president died peacefully on Thursday morning, surrounded by his family.
Chirac served 2 terms as president and twice as prime minister and took France into the single European currency.
The French National Assembly observed a minute's silence in his final memory.
President Macron says a national day of mourning will take place on Monday when a mass at the Saint Sulpice Church in Paris will be held.
And in a short while, we'll be crossing over to Mombasa. But before then, Shiksha, you can probably take this next story.
Right, and of course, Robert Mugabe will be buried in his hometown following a final twist in the row over the former Zimbabwean leader's resting place.
Mugabe died this morning, aged 95, and a funeral was held in the capital, Harare.
The government had resisted his family's wish for him to be buried in his home region of Zvimba, deciding that he should lay in Heroes Acre, a national monument and burial ground.
The family eventually consented, but on Thursday the government backtracked, citing Mugabe's final wishes.
The family says that one of Mugabe's final requests was for his wife, Grace, to never leave Mugabe's coffin during the funeral and up until the point when he was buried.
Moving on and closer home, 66 migrants who were stranded in camps in Libya have arrived in Rwanda.
They are the first group of refugees to be relocated following an agreement between the Rwandan government, UN Refugee Agency UNHCR and the African Union.
Rwanda has agreed to take in more than 500 migrants who had become trapped in dangerous conditions in Libya while trying to reach Europe.
The UN says the first group includes many unaccompanied children, single mothers and families, some of whom are from the Horn of Africa.
The youngest passenger was a 2-month-old girl born to Somali parents.
All right, and for now, it's time to take you to what is happening in our respective counties.
And we have our reporter in Mombasa County. But before Mombasa, let's go to Kisumu, and we'll be interacting with Baraka Karama for an update from that region.
This is a Kingly Primary School in Kisumu West constituency within Kisumu County, and as you can see from the background, this particular institution is in a dilapidated state, and of course the pupils learning in this particular institution are living on a time bomb. Just yesterday the CS for Education George Magoa did embark on a major crackdown to close the institutions whose structures are not in a proper state, and actually it's quite a sad situation here in this particular institution, because the people who are lining here under this particular condition are living in a time bomb, just waiting for it to explode any time. But of course, we do hope that before that, something should be done to avert a crisis that, of course, we witnessed in Nairobi earlier this week. Come on, maybe we'll have to show you the condition that these pupils are living in. Actually, they're still in classroom, and it will be proper for you to see what's happening going by the condition of this particular structure here. The teacher, you can see the teacher is still in class. Of course, we can see it's an English lesson, but look at the condition that these pupils are learning under, because this structure can collapse any time, and of course that will be a major disaster for these pupils, and of course, God forbid, such things should not happen at this particular time. And as you can see, they're still going on with their lesson, and the teacher is trying very hard just to try and be on the right part of the syllabus. Maybe if you can just get a comment from the teacher. Excuse me, just come. How are you?
I'm fine.
We are very sorry about the condition here. I can see you are going on with the lessons.
Yeah.
The class is in a very pathetic state, if I may say.
Yeah.
Should you say that you are just waiting for a bomb to explode?
No, I'm just trying to help the kid. My name is Samuel Ouko.
Yes.
I'm a class 2 teacher.
Yes.
I do teach here.
Yeah.
This is the condition of my class. Yeah, so I don't have any solution, because my work is to teach.
Yes.
So even though I'm teaching in this particular class, I'm also not happy about it, because whenever rain is coming,
Yes.
it forces me to release these kids to go to another class,
Yes.
whether class 4, because of the condition of the classroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, like early this week, there was a tragedy in Nairobi.
Yeah.
And 7 pupils, 8 to be precise, lost their life.
Yeah.
Going by the condition in this particular institution, do you think that we are living in a time bomb?
Actually, it is true. Whatever happened in Nairobi can as well happen to this place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, how many pupils are there in this particular class?
26.
26.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are 26 pupils. Yeah.
Okay, well, you've heard, that was the English teacher, of course, saying that these pupils are living in a time bomb. They're just waiting for the bomb to explode, if I may say. But God forbid, that should not happen. And the Ministry of Education should move up with speed to ensure that something is done urgently. This is class 2. I will just go out to another class. Maybe if you can just see the condition of this particular class. This is class 3, I think. Class 1. And you can see the teacher is also on duty again, doing what he should be doing on a daily basis. Actually, despite him coming here early in the morning, this is a condition of this particular institution, and of course, it's quite dehumanizing for these pupils here to learn in this particular condition. You can see they're just going on with the normal learning lesson, but of course it's risky for them, because this particular building has wide cracks, and you can see what is evident here, because it is quite risky. Let me just get a brief from the teacher. Of course, tell us your name, and we are very sorry about this particular situation. Do you think that it's dangerous for you and the pupils here?
Yeah, actually, my name is James Otiende. In fact, I'm the deputy head teacher.
Yes.
But the conditions of the classrooms are not good. In fact, especially during rainy seasons and during when the weather sometimes is hostile.
Yes.
Yeah, we really find it very difficult to stay in this kind of environment.
This is class 1, I'm told.
This is class 1.
How many pupils do you have?
We have 23. 23.
Yes.
23. Yeah.
That is the teacher for class 1, of course, giving us his brief, and of course he says that it is quite risky for these particular pupils here. This is class 1, and he says he has a total population of over 20 pupils who are learning here on a daily basis. But like I mentioned, they're just living on a time bomb because the condition of this particular classroom is not in a good state. And we hope that the Ministry of Education will do something before the crisis, tragedy happens in this particular institution. Let us just go to another class maybe to see the condition of that particular class. Again, you can see this is the class. This class, it's an empty classroom, of course, and the condition here is quite disappointing. Let me just get the views and comments from the head teacher of this particular institution. Of course, tell us your name and the condition of this particular classroom is quite disappointing.
Yes.
The Ministry of Education has embarked on a major exercise to close the learning institutions that do not comply. Those that, of course, the students and pupils are living in a time bomb. What is your comment as the head teacher of this particular institution?
Thank you. I'm Kennedy Chando, the head teacher at Kingley Primary School in Kisumu West Sub-County. Some of our rooms are dilapidated, and we've made several reports. We've made proposals to the CDF office, and they told us to wait until the next financial year. But actually the state of the building is pathetic. I've even contacted the Ministry of Health. They told me they would come and condemn the building. Yes.
How many pupils do you have in this particular institution?
We have 184 from primary to class 8. I mean from class 1 to class 8. Then we also have ECD. We have 37.
The condition of this particular classroom, class 1 and class 2, of course, it's very bad. Don't you think it should be proper for you as the head of the institution to take some measures before tragedy happens?
I think it is necessary, and I even felt of visiting the office. In fact, yesterday they sent some representatives to come and find out actually how the state of the school is. And we gave them the feedback, so we don't know what they are going to do about it. Yes.
Okay. Well, we do hope that the Ministry of Education will move up with speed to ensure that the plight of these particular pupils is looked into, because the CS for Education has been going around the country. Actually, we understand that today he's in Mombasa County just to try and assess the learning institutions that the structures are not in a good state. So we expect that maybe he's going to pay a visit in Kisumu County also, maybe to just try and look into the structures of various learning institutions here. This is a public school, a Kingley Primary School in Kisumu West constituency, and like the head teacher and the teachers said, they do hope that the Ministry of Education will move up with speed to ensure that a proper solution is found before a tragedy happens, like it happened in Nairobi early this week. So that's it from a Kingley Primary School. We do hope that the CS for Education, Professor George Magoha and his team will move up his speed at least to try and find a solution before the worst happens. Back to you, studio.
Deplorable state at which the students in a Kingley Primary School are actually studying in. Sam, just have a question. What happens if it starts raining or if it's extremely windy?
And there is also Doldol Primary School in Laikipia. We had those that were closed right here in Nairobi. And this morning, Professor George Magoha is in Mombasa, and he's basically just inspecting the infrastructure around schools in that region. And right now he is at Greenfields Academy. A lot of questions have been raised when it comes to the safety standards of this institution. It is in Changamwe, Mombasa County. It has attracted the attention of the Ministry of Education officials. What report will be given by Professor George Magoha after he is done inspecting this institution. We've got Fred Kai, who is on the ground and will be giving us an update. And as far as this issue is concerned, it all began on Monday after Precious Talents Academy right here in Dagoretti South collapsed, killing 8 pupils, and subsequently we had the Deputy President, Dr. William Ruto, direct the Ministry of Education to conduct an infrastructure audit across all 35,000 primary schools that we have in the country, and a lot of questions have been asked since then. Key among them, should we 50 plus years down the line after independence be delegating education as a function to the extent that we have? What priorities do we have overturned? What issues are we not giving the proper attention? And what is the way forward, even when we get some of the reports that we are getting from the ground, Shiksha? It is a deplorable situation.
Right.
We've got Julius Melly, the chair of the Education Committee, that is spearheading, among other things, this kind of audit. And it will be interesting to see what not reservations, but resolutions will be arrived at after this exercise.
Now remember, Professor George Magoha is also going to be speaking and of course telling us what the way forward is with regards to Greenfield Academy, which is near the airport. And of course, it is not looking the best in terms of its structures. And yes, Professor George Magoha will be auditing it in details.
And we'd like to see even the whole transfer issue.
Right.
Like you close this institution, you direct that the students should be absorbed by other institutions. But remember, courtesy of free primary education, we've seen an increase in terms of enrollments in schools. So in terms of space and resources, plus the teacher-pupil ratio, what becomes of that particular issue? But when Magoha was quizzed on that, he said, if the parents are uncomfortable, that is why we are a democratic country. Make your choice.
Indeed. And of course, we'll definitely be covering that later on. And of course, we'll provide the comprehensive report on the same right here on K24 Daily Brief as the crackdown continues. And we'll be giving you more details with regards to what Professor George Magoha says later on.
And talking about the details and more on what we can expect from the Education Ministry. Now, over 10 schools have been closed in Nairobi so far as the crackdown on schools operating in unsafe conditions gains momentum. The exercise continues even as it emerged that some public schools expected to take in the affected learners are overwhelmed and will struggle to accommodate the increased number.
Dennis Matara is up next with that report.
An operation that was kicked off by Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha Wednesday afternoon, targeting schools considered to be operating illegally or in inhabitable conditions. By the end of the day, 4 schools, including St. Catherine Education Center in Kibra, had been ordered to cease operations. On Thursday, the second day of operation, more schools were closed down as Magoha conducted another impromptu inspection tour of the sprawling Kangemi area.
The government standard is the gold standard. It is the gold standard. If you are going to argue that there is no space, you can build a good structure.
This as learners from schools which fell victim of Professor Magoha's purge on Wednesday afternoon remained out of school. At St. Catherine Education Center in Bombolulu, Kibra, stranded teachers miled around the corridors of the school, pondering their next move after being technically rendered jobless.
Tumekuwa walimu 13 na wapishi 2 wote kwa ujumla, ambapo sasa venye shule imefunga hivi, sasa siwezi jua nao watapata aje chakula chao kwa vile wote wametegemea hapa.
The school, built in a similar fashion as the ill-fated Precious Talents Top Academy in Dagoretti, remained empty. On the roof is a concrete slab sitting on wooden beams to support several classrooms overhead. But parents at the school remained adamant that they will not transfer their children to Ayani Primary School as directed by the government.
Tunaona ni hatari, lakini wangempea hata wiki moja. Tuone mahali sisi wenyewe tupeleke watoto wetu. Sio watu lazimisha tupeleke watoto Ayani. mtu utaweza jipanga upeleke mtoto mahali unafikiria.
Na sahii hakuna admission yoyote yenye inaweza chukua watoto sahii Juni 3rd term, na tumepaki na siku chache tu wafanye KCPE.
But Professor Magoha was having none of these, insisting the crackdown will continue.
And the instruction is very clear that any school whose structure is unstable and is a double-story building has to be closed.
One of the schools expected to absorb the affected learners is Ayani Primary School in Kibra. But the members of the school management who spoke off camera in fear of victimization revealed that the school does not have adequate space or teachers to accommodate the increased number of learners. By close of business Thursday, only 17 out of 200 learners transferred from St. Catherine's Center had reported to Ayani. As the government intensifies its crackdown on schools established under dangerous structures, the fate of students affected hangs in the balance since some of the schools recommended are congested. Dennis Matara, K24 from Kibra, Nairobi.
That state of affairs there that Dennis is highlighting, and of course I think we will have to keep covering that right here on the Daily Brief.
In fact, today, Shiksha, the memorial service of the 8 pupils who died at the Precious Talents Academy is currently ongoing. And we have our team on the ground and we'll be crossing over there, not now, however, after this break, so keep it K24 TV.
We'll be back.